So Stephen is with us on set. Stephen, you started with this collapse of the retailer Toys R Us. It's a massive collapse, this really, isn't it?
It sure is. More than 700 stores to close in the United States, 33,000 jobs at risk as Toys R Us files for bankruptcy. The chain, like its rivals, has been struggling with increasing competition from the likes of Amazon, as well as price wars with the big retailers like Walmart and Target. Despite annual revenues of more than $11 billion last year, Toys R Us struggled to move with the times, partly because of debts that it had left over from a 2005 buyout. Lauren Berstecker has the details.
A sad day for toy lovers. Toys R Us announced it would liquidate all of its US stores after failing to find a buyer or reach a deal with its creditors.
I am very disappointed with the result, but we no longer have the financial support to continue the company's US operations.
After dominating the toy industry in the 80s and 90s, Toys R Us lost ground to discount megastores like Target and Walmart, and more recently to online retailers like Amazon. The company was also hurt by the rise of mobile gaming, to which it largely failed to adapt, and since a 2005 buyout, it has struggled to service a $5 billion debt. In 2015, Toys R Us was forced to close its flagship store in New York's Times Square, and in September 2017 it filed for bankruptcy protection. The announced shutter of its 735 US stores could now put the jobs of around 33,000 full and part-time employees at risk. The chain also announced Wednesday it would end all of its UK operations, with stores in Western Europe and Australia likely to follow suit. Toys R Us is still looking for buyers for its Canadian, Asian, and Central European business.
Another consumer giant now, Unilever, decided to move its legal headquarters out of the UK.
The company's behind brands from Dove soap to Magnum ice creams. Now, they had been operating a dual system of headquarters in Rotterdam and in London, but they wanted to simplify their structure. The choice of the Netherlands over the UK, though, will be damaging for British Prime Minister Theresa May as she seeks to retain business confidence ahead of Brexit. Now, Unilever says Brexit is not the reason for the move, and it's promised that no UK jobs will be lost as a result of the decision.
And the offices of the online retailer Amazon, this is in Japan, been raided by the country's competition watchdog.
Japan's Fair Trade Commission says it's investigating allegations the company asked sellers to pay part of the cost of discounts on the Amazon site. It's the second time the online retail giant has been targeted by competition regulators in Japan. Amazon says it's cooperating with the authorities.
What a difference a month or so makes. The price of Bitcoin now been falling now in recent days, hasn't it?
Guess how much a Bitcoin is?
I have absolutely no idea.
Just under $8,000 a Bitcoin.
Yeah.
That's down from a high of 19,000 that we saw back in December.
Amazing.
So a huge fall. Down in the past couple of days because of moves from the Securities and Exchange Commission in the United States, but it's lost a quarter of its value so far in March. Ethereum, another one of the cryptocurrencies, is not having a great time either. Of course, we also had that news from Google yesterday that they were changing their rules around advertising, banning ads on cryptocurrencies from June of this year. Let's move on with a look at what's happening on the stock markets for you next. European shares opening the day in the green. Unilever shares flat after that decision over its headquarters, and the move had been flagged for some time. Here in Paris, the bank Société Générale opening down over 4% after announcing the departure of its Deputy Director General. In Asia, trade tensions playing into the Asian market session as well. Markets had started in the red following Wall Street, but most of them bouncing back later on in trading.
Now, finally from Stephen, Paris has crept up the list of the world's most expensive cities, hasn't it?
It's come to second place, but Singapore is still the top of the list according to the Economist Intelligence Unit. It's the fifth year in a row that the island city has been at the top of the list. It's 16% more expensive to live in than New York. And in fact, Asia-Pacific cities now make up 17 of the top 50 in the EIU's ranking. But Paris, as I said, moved up the ranks by 5 places, now in second place, joint with Zurich. That's mainly thanks to the stronger euro. New York has fallen to 13th place, partly because of a weaker dollar. The EIU puts together this ranking from 150 consumer items every year. But interesting to see the moves from year to year.
I'm very surprised by that. Having lived in London and in Paris, I still would have thought London was high, but there you go. Things
Different
change.
times, I suppose. That's where the currencies come in.
Exactly. Thank you very much, Stephen. Stephen Carroll with Business on France 24.